So, welcome to the Divine Temple podcast. In this podcast, we are going to have really cool interviews with all of our spiritual healers that are in the temple, that are currently in the training and have already graduated from the training as well. And here I have my beautiful Daisy. I love you so much. Me and Daisy know each other for such a long time, and we reconnected, and we are in this journey together. We are expressing and getting to know each other from a place of love and higher consciousness from where we actually grew up in South LA. And here we are really transforming our lives through prayer, meditation, connection, sisterhood, love, and embracing our shadow, growing and healing. So I'm really excited that you get to be my first one that I interview. And I'm really excited just to get to know you a little bit better and everything that you have to express so we can listen and hear you and also embody all that you are, Daisy. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much. I'm very grateful for you and the space that you have for us, and sharing and healing and the guidance. I'm grateful for all that. Thank you.
So let's start with you telling us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background. You can throw in everything that you went through, if whatever you're most comfortable with, as of course, and just tell us about your journey, your spiritual journey.
Yes, of course. So I'm going to start just from childhood, because I feel like it has a lot to do with my journey. I mean, for all of us, I think it starts when you're a child, when you're the most authentic, your most authentic self. And for me, was always, since childhood, I grew up with my grandparents, and my parents, like most of us in the Latin country culture, we grow up apart from our parents because they have to come to this country to find opportunities. And so that was my parents' story. And we grew up, my siblings and I grew up in Guatemala with our grandparents. And although our grandparents were very loving, and I'm very grateful for them, they did have a lot to do in my shaping of the person that I wanted to be, and also the love that I received as a child from them. But even though they were very loving, I still didn't feel the voidness that I felt of my parents. And so that was hard as a kid to understand that, I didn't have my parents, and that feeling of, I want to be with them. And so once I did come here, and I lived with my parents. It was
How old were you when you came with your parents?
So I was born here, actually, in the United States, and then I moved when I was 3, and I lived there until I was 9. So when I came back, I was 9. And I was very excited, of course, to be with my parents. My dad, I didn't really remember him. My mom, I hadn't seen a few years before moving in with them, or moving back with them. But it was very exciting, being with them, and it was sad to leave my grandparents behind, because they were like parents. I didn't call them grandparents; they were like my parents for me and my siblings. But then moving here and living with my parents, it was a little shocking and a little disappointing, because my dad, he was an alcoholic, and totally not what I expected. And so even though I was only 9, it just felt like it wasn't right. And I loved my dad very, very much. And I think that since very young, it was like a thing, I don't know, as a girl, I guess, I just hold him in like a pedestal, like my dad is so strong, my dad is this, my dad is so handsome. And so, once I got to meet him and live with him, it was a little disappointing, the fact that, he was an alcoholic, and, as an alcoholic person, as a person with addiction, it comes with a lot of stuff. And so I got to see that side of him, and I was very disappointed by that. And, I saw my mom being in a relationship, but also being the head of the house supporting us, and all of that gave me a sense of like disappointing, my dad, and a little disappointed on my mom as well to see, I didn't understand. I just kind of questioned why she was in that relationship.
Why she
And
put up with it, right?
what was that?
Why she put up with it?
Why she put up with it? And I would tell her, like, very young, Mom, you deserve better. You deserve better. And my dad was in and out of our lives, and until I was about 13 or 14, he just decided to leave, and he left to Guatemala. And a year later, he passed away, and he was actually murdered in Guatemala. And that was a big trauma for me because we didn't have the best of a relationship at that time. So it was really hard. There was a lot of unsaid things. There was a lot of guilt on my side. And it just didn't feel like I had a closure with him.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I feel like at that time of my life, I was 14. I was developing myself. So it also caused this trauma where I feel like I closed myself off to people for a few years, where it was really hard for me to be like a loving person. I was really lost on what kind of person I wanted to be. You think that you shield yourself and protect yourself, and you put up a wall because you don't want anyone to hurt you. And so that's what I did. And so that affected my relationships in a way. When it came to like being in a relationship, I feel that the disappointment that I felt in like the biggest male figure in my life, like he let me down, and in my view, he let me down. So I felt like every man after that was gonna let me down. So I kind of have expected that from people, and also had to kind of like do everything on my own, like be my mom pretty much, but not put up with it more so I can that sense of independence. So yeah, my journey was a little bit, I think like when it came to relationship, I was just, I had a wall up, and and then, I met my kid's dad, and I think after that, that's when my healing journey started. When it came to relationships, when it came to myself and the person I really wanted to be, because here's this person, this man that I have this strong feeling for, and it just didn't feel like that person felt the same for me. Yet for some reason, I just wanted to be with that person, even though it was someone that was not giving me what I wanted at that time, what I should receive from a partner, from a relationship, what I should be getting from a relationship. And it drove me to a place where I was very angry, and I was tired of the same thing, the same relationship. The resentment that I felt for the past events in my life just surfaced. I was very, very angry, and I reflect a lot on that because it started from that moment where it was like a rage that I felt, and this is about 9 years ago. And I was very lost, and I felt that I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like even that I didn't like people. I didn't like myself. I was very unhappy. It just felt very dark. I was in a very dark place. My relationships were getting affected, family, friendships, because I just didn't like anyone. But, so that forced me to really look inside of me and ask myself, why am I feeling this way? And I thought it was them, they're making me feel like this. It's them. I couldn't really blame myself. And 2 years after my separation, and after I started looking inward and just, really looking at the role that I played in everything, that's when I started healing and started taking responsibility for my actions, instead of blaming others. And that really helped me to want to just heal and forgive and let go, because I think I couldn't really let go because I didn't know how to forgive. I didn't know how to take responsibility for the part that I played in everything, for the role that I played in my life, pretty much. And that just really came with maturity and the experiences that I had, and being in that dark place where I'm so grateful that I was able to get out. I think I'm already sounding like myself. I don't know if you have questions for me, but I can keep going.
So, it's very interesting that you mentioned the time when you were around 14 when your dad passed away. And I know that was the time when you and I had like some little beef with each other. And, at that time I considered you my friend. And then we had a little breakup between our relationship. And I didn't quite understand what was happening that I feel like you betrayed me, or that why couldn't we like keep our friendship, because I loved you and I felt like we had that. But now to see, like, it just brings me to a place of compassion. Like, we just don't know what people are going through and what the experiences are for them to do or react a certain way, because now I feel like, I have such a sense of more compassion, and not just compassion, like an understanding. And this is why I'm going to love these interviews, because I think that it brings that moment of like, we're human beings. And when we are experiencing something, the actions that we can do can lead us into a path of understanding more about ourselves when we do go inward and when we do the work. And how beautiful would it have been if at that time you had the tools that you have now. I mean, you could have gotten yourself out of that darkness right away, but because you didn't have them and you are here where you're at now, I know that everything comes to you exactly when it needs to, in divine timing, because that's how spirit works. But how beautiful it is to me to see that reflection back from just us, because we go way back. We go elementary school way back. And yeah, I'm really grateful for you sharing that part of your story.
Yeah. And I feel like this is the time where also as a teenager, you're really, without having all this trauma, there's a lot of going on physically in your body, the changes in your body, so you feel a little confused on what's going on, and plus having all these other events happening around you, then it can be very traumatic for someone. And also, like you mentioned, compassion. I think that's the major thing that played a part in my healing, has been being also compassionate towards people in my life that I thought that let me down. Now I see it as a different perspective when you see it from a compassion, way, because they didn't know any better. And this is what I always tell myself as well. Like, I didn't know any better when I made mistakes, and I still make mistakes. And you can only grow from your experiences, and you can choose to be a different person. But it takes work, and it takes really looking at yourself. And sometimes it's very shameful. And that's the thing that we avoid, I think, and I have to sit with shame a lot of times. But at this point of my life, I feel like everything I do, I just really do it from a place where it doesn't cause me any shame, And that came from this really compassion for others and understanding that we're all humans, but we can also all heal if you really look inward and you're honest and you do the work as hard as it is.
I also love how you, you realize that, victim consciousness is when we are blaming everyone for all of our experiences. That's never us. And I really love that you had an understanding of that. It was no longer blaming others in the situations that were happening around you, but it was more like, what is it in me? Like, what do I need to do? What do I need to change in order for my life to change? And that's, I mean, taking full responsibility for ourselves is like the hardest work that we have to do, but it must be done because everything that we're experiencing, those emotions, so the inner chaos, even our relationships, the type of relationship we're attracting is coming from within us, is coming from that we're feeling. I don't know if you relate the anger that you had towards like your ex-partner as well towards the anger that you had with your dad.
Yeah, 100%. It was like, here I am again, feeling very disappointed towards someone. And when is it going to stop? And I feel like because my dad was not around anymore, I really took that anger out on him. And it was really bad. Like, it was a rage. Like, it was really, really bad, where to the point where I didn't recognize myself. And then afterwards, I was very disappointed in myself of certain things, how I reacted, what I said, things that I said, and that also played a big role in my healing and wanting to be different and deal with things differently. So, yeah, you could, it comes from somewhere.
And also the fact that your parents left. I know that most Mexicans and Guatemalans, Salvadorians, everyone that had to be left behind, because I know that my mom had to be left behind in order for my grandmother to come, has this feeling of abandonment and this feeling of not feeling secure. And growing up with that not feeling secure just makes you, especially for us women, having to be strong all the time. It doesn't really allow us to be fully in our femininity because we have to be strong. We have to play this role of having to protect ourselves. I know you mentioned this, that you had to start taking care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it also comes like where you grew up. Like, if you look at like, the hood, South Central, yeah, you're surrounded by this energy where most women are taking care of themselves and their family, and you carry on that energy. And I feel like I also carry that energy from my mom. And then also I reflect a lot on this because I'm like, how can you find a partner that's going to really be that masculine energy if you also have that masculine energy? And I feel like I had that a lot, where I didn't really let a man do what they were supposed to do as a man in the relationship or in partnership, because I was so scared to rely on someone else. So I would just do it. And that didn't help me really. But then at the same time, I knew I shouldn't be the one doing all these things. So it was disappointing. It was constant disappointment, But this is why I also love the course that you offer, the spiritual healing course. It just teaches you so much, because we carry this energy, and that's exactly my life. Like, I carry my mom's energy. She had to do it, and then I felt like I had to, and it didn't allow me to really find the right partner.
Tell us a little bit about your journey with cancer.
Yeah.
You're like, I was going to get there.
Yeah. So let me get to that part now. But, my journey with breast cancer, it's both ways. It's also like beauty, and like, it's a thing where it's an experience of like, I have both feelings. Like, it's hard, but at the same time, I see the beauty in that and the blessing. I don't know how to really describe it, but I was diagnosed 2 years ago in 2020 with breast cancer, and I was in my life was pretty stable. I was in a newly relationship, and when I got diagnosed, it was like the worst feeling ever, because you hear cancer, you feel like you're just gonna die. So that's how I felt when I was diagnosed. I just felt like I'm gonna die eventually, and this, it was like I was seeing the end of my days. That's how I felt, and I didn't want to tell people because I just didn't know. I just felt like, man, like I'm gonna die, and I didn't really tell people. I told the closest people to me, and at that time, there was like an issue with my health insurance, so I couldn't really see a specialist right away. So I had to kind of figure that part out. So I had to kind of sit with that feeling of like not really knowing like what exactly my diagnosis was, what kind of breast cancer it was. It took a few months before I even got like a biopsy and really knew like, okay, there's possibility that I can survive it, but it was really hard. And that really helped me. It just kind of like it came at the right place for me to realize and also see the blessing behind it all. I didn't feel like, even though as hard as it was to be diagnosed with breast cancer, I didn't feel alone. I felt supported by my loved ones. I felt I'm not going to do it alone. I didn't feel that sense of abandonment and the feelings that I've had over the years, where I'm alone. I have to do everything alone. For once, I didn't feel that way. And that's my blessing through my journey, that I didn't have to go through it alone. And that just kept me strong and always helped me shift my perspective towards my journey. And there was times where I will ask myself, did I do something? Did I do something to cause this sickness? That I don't know, you're trying to find a reason. But then once I realized that instead of asking why it happened, I started always asking, what can I learn from this journey? What can I learn from this journey? What is it trying to teach me, and how can I be better? And once I put that in my head and said, what can I learn from this journey? Every feeling, every situation, it was hard, but once I overcame that situation, it just felt better and better. And, it's still a part of my journey. I'm still continuing to work on seeing the bright side of it, and the healing that it had in my life, and the growth that I had in my life as a person. And that's the biggest blessing for me. It just doesn't allow me to see that journey as a really horrible experience, horrible journey, or horrible I went through this. It really can't. It doesn't allow me to see it that way, because there's just so much blessings that I was able to see through that journey, but yeah,
I feel like it softened you. Like, I feel like the beginning, because you were right in the course when you were going through it, and I remember you struggling, but then now that that you're back in the course, I see that you're more softened, like you're more softer, you're more relaxed, like you're much more calmer than what you were before. And I feel like it just softened. It's like the universe, like through you, like God was like, hey, like, you need to feel supported, you need to feel loved. Here you go. This is the way you're going to feel it. As hard as that sounds, but it just really, it feels like it seems like that was what you needed to like have a little wake up call.
Like how I see it, and I often talk to my partner about this, is that if I wouldn't have gone through this experience, I don't know how long it would. I know I would have gotten there, but I don't know how long it would have taken me there, because I was already on that path. But this experience helped me be vulnerable, which was something that was really hard for me to do. But at this time, I had no choice but to be vulnerable. I had no choice but to depend on others, which is something that I couldn't do before. And now it's like, I have no choice but to be vulnerable and let someone take care of you. And as hard as it was, it helped me trust people again. It helped me, one of the hardest things in this journey, growing up, was the resentment towards my mom, not for what for what she did to me. It was more like she didn't do something directly to me, but just staying in that relationship with my dad, it made me feel like she thought about herself. As a woman, she thought about herself first. And it was really hard with this resentment of like, you should have left, and maybe right, but I don't know, right? This is how I felt. You should have left, but maybe I would have had a little more stability. I wouldn't have seen that back and forth, and how my dad acted. These were my thoughts. But her fully being there as well through my journey with cancer, fully being there, helped me let go of that resentment and allowing her to be there fully for me. And it just, that was another blessing, having her there, 100% being there for me as a mom. It just brought all this compassion and for her, just, knowing that she just didn't know any better, and that she does love me, that she is there for me. And this is the best way that she could have showed up for me. She showed up for me when I needed her the most. And it's never too late. And she was there. And I'm grateful for that. And that has helped me let go of a lot of resentment. It has healed our relationship. We have much better relationship. More understanding, more loving, more communication. So that's another blessing that came out through this experience for me.
I remember when you first were diagnosed and I had a talk with your mom and she was so heartbroken. And I remember her saying, like, why couldn't I be the one who got it? Like, why Daisy? Like, I'm so crying. She was like, why couldn't I get it? Like, it should have been me instead of her. She's so young. And she was so heartbroken. And I had to, give her some words of encouragement, of course, and just let her know that you were going to be fine and that, prayed for you and that everyone's praying for you, that we're all holding you in this healing light and knowing that God is working through you and that every part of your body is healing. And, and I told her that she just needed to be there for you. And I think she really loves you, and just seeing that you were able to really forgive and let go. And I feel like that's also part of what the journey that you got cancer for as well, letting go of that and building that feminine bond with your mom again, which is beautiful because we need that, right? We kind of need that support from our physical mothers, and for us that don't have our physical mothers, we need to at least forgive from our heart space, so we can be peaceful, because peace is so important, right?
And moving forward now in life, I feel like I have the tools to have better relationships. And I know I always say the old me wouldn't do this, the old me, but this journey did transform me, and I am a different person. And it's never like, sometimes I'm like, I wish this would have happened when I was a little younger, but it's never too late. It happens at the right time. Like, the way you think, and it just feels like a puzzle, and now it feels like it's all makes sense. And that's how I see my journey. Like now, looking back, it just makes sense, everything. And at the point where this is like the hardest thing that I had to overcome in my life, the breast cancer. But it's also been like the eye-opening, the blessing in disguise that made me realize a lot of things about life, that now I feel like I have the tools to be the person that I was meant to be, that I want to be, where I don't have to feel ashamed, where I don't have to feel, this negative feelings. I mean, you're always going to have that, but, I feel like I have the tools to just be better.
Yeah. And I love that you said that, we're always going to feel negative. We're always going to feel our emotions. It's about feeling them though, and going through them and actually sitting with our emotions that actually liberates us from all the chaos that comes. It's taking those moments of dealing with it now instead of having to elongate into our lives where then something does happen, an event where we have no choice but to look at them. And so I'm really grateful that you were able to do this. And also because you do have your kids, you have 2 daughters, and doing the work that you're doing is not just helping you, but it's also putting that foundation for your daughters to actually live more freely and be able to express themselves more without having to carry that baggage of the lineage, that anger, frustration, resentment. Because if you didn't heal it with your mom, then it was going to happen to you. And we know that cycle, how it just repeats itself, and it keeps on going and going and going until someone in the family like you says, I'm done with this. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to be the one that breaks the cycle in our family.
Yeah. And in my family, definitely starting with me, I think that, breaking the cycles of things, and also the cycle of like avoiding things, like I see how my mom learns from me, like the things that I'm learning. You see how she wants to get involved, and she also wants to learn, and and she follows because she sees the changes in me. She sees that it's working, that there's so many things that come, and then she's like, oh, I want to know too, I want to heal too, I want to learn too, which is, it's nice.
I love your mom.
I'm very proud of her. Yeah.
Yeah, like when I give her homework, she's like, yeah. I love seeing her, and I really think that she's growing, and I think it's beautiful that you are showing that example and that you're leading that path. And it's always when we do it and we're not preaching people about doing it themselves, we're just living our life authentically. And then people see it in us. They're like, wow, like, what are they doing? What is she doing? I want that as well. Like, I want my life to be that way. And then they start asking questions. And I think that's the most beautiful part about it.
Yes. That's how I feel. I feel like, it's a lot of things, but once you're open to it, you're just open to healing. And the biggest thing for sure is that victim mentality. Just don't get into that victim mentality. We can all heal, no matter what your trauma has been. If you want to heal, you can. It's work, and even it will come back, because it happens to me. Those feelings of like, what I went through, and that I didn't understand a lot of things before this journey. Like, I didn't understand depression. I didn't understand how someone can really just let go of themselves, and lose that hope and lose that fight in them. And there was moments where I was in that thin line where I could have let go. I could have just not wanted, given up. And I had to just really just fight for my life and say no. Like, I don't want to let go. I have reasons to fight for. I have reasons to live. I want to live. And that was an eye-opening as well, seeing how close it can be. You can get to that point where you can just let go and stop fighting. It's a constant fight, I think, every day. You really have to choose. You want to be here. You really have to choose if you want to be here, how you want to be here, what kind of person you want to be in this world, and what are you going to do about it. I feel like I'm more conscious about that every day, like what kind of person I want to be. Especially when you're in a situation where death is so close, you're like, how do I want to be remembered? Then you start worrying about those things. Like, if I die, how do I want people to remember me? Like, a person that was this, and that will come to my mind. I want people to remember me by knowing that I want to live. I fought, and I was, someone can look at it and say, you know what, I like that she fought for her life and she didn't give up. And those things will come up all the time.
That's so beautiful. I love that, because, just really us stepping into that place of grabbing all this strength from God, because it is about relying on God. It's not no more about our physical self, but relying on this higher power to take over and to give us the strength that we're looking for. And I know that you did get that through prayer. You did get that through your devotion and your practice as well, because you have to rely on this higher power, because otherwise you just cannot without it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I feel like 100% my trust in God and people help me. That's exactly feeling that I can trust God, and I can trust the people around me, and I can rely on them and God. I felt like I got this, knowing that they got me as well. I knew the whole time God is not going to let me, he's going to get me through it. I know that. I got closer to God. I got closer to my spiritual side. I trusted myself more, and it was a beautiful journey for me. And that's where it's like, hard, but then there was so much beauty in it, so much things that I learned, that it just, the gratitude that I got out of it and that I came out with, the gratitude that I came out with from this experience is really, really amazing. How grateful I am for the experience, for the people around me, just for life, you know?
And you also had you had no other choice but to also trust your partner as well. I remember that was one of your struggles because you had to be strong all the time. You were the one who had to take care of everyone, your children. You had to be the one who was always working. You're also Capricorn, which you like working. This is like any of you like prosperity, like money. So you had no choice but to actually rely on him. And I remember your struggle. You're like, oh, I don't want to, like, you know, but you had like no choice but to, for the first time, actually rely on a man to actually help you. And I think one thing, I'm going to let you talk in this 1 second. I think that this is when we start really putting into practice that, you know, a man, a job, nothing is our prosperity. God is the flow of our prosperity. However it comes, God is taking care of us somehow. And just how it happened that you got in this relationship with someone who wanted to take care of you, who is actually very alpha, very like, hey, I'm going to take care of you. I know that he's German, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he has like this energy of like, I want to take care of my woman. And I know that you had like no choice but to actually trust that.
Yes, 100%. And like for once in my life, I mean, you can think of, if you think about it, like I'm in this process of dealing with this sickness and I'm so vulnerable and I feel defeated physically and emotionally, and I think finally I have a man in my life that I can count on. I finally feel like the first man in my life that has not let me down, that's there for me through this journey when I needed someone the most, you know? Like it showed up, like those times where I didn't have that, it just made up in this one time. And that's like fulfilling for me. That's okay. Like this one time I finally have that man that I've always wanted, and my dad and my other relationships, you know? So it's just beautiful. That's how I see it, just beautiful.
What a blessing. That's what I think. I'm like, wow, how God is just sending us messages like, hey, I'm going to take care of you no matter what. Here you go. Yeah. Like, here is like what you need. And this is what you need for your healing journey. And this is what you're going to get for your healing journey. But you have no other choice but to look and heal your own self. And healing is a process. I mean, we're continuously going to be healing throughout our lifetimes. We're going to continuously be growing, expanding. But it's actually those moments where we can really see spirit really working through our lives are just so magical and divine. And we can see these miracles continuously in our life every single moment if we start paying attention of how they're coming through. All right, sister, I just want to thank you so much, Daisy, for being with me on this time together, and just your light, your beauty, and everything that you're called. Daisy is a student of the Spiritual Healer training, and she will be graduating soon. So I'm just happy that we get to walk on this journey together. And if you want to just have a conversation with Daisy, you can always send her a message on Instagram or whatever it is, any of her platforms. I love you, Daisy, and stay tuned for our other interviews that we're going to be hosting every Monday. There's going to be a new live interview, conversations, and they're not just interviews. They're really like getting to know like the path that we're all going through. Blessings.
Thank you so much for the space that you're holding for everyone to share their journey. So beautiful. I'm so grateful for you being in my life. You know, part of my healing comes because of you. I mean, you're like kind of like the guidance through it. So I'm grateful for that. And God knows exactly, like, you know, when to place people in your life and, like, hold on to those moments where it just feels, like, right. You know, there's going to be days when it doesn't, but hold on to those days because we all have those days where it feels right and then it doesn't, and it feels right and then it doesn't. Kind of just ride the wave, and I'm grateful for you and for everything that you do, the time that you take. I love you for that. Thank you.
I'll take that into my heart. But what I always say, it's never me, it's always God.
Right. Yeah.
I always say that. It's, you know, we're all simply clear vessels that God is using, and God is the one that does everything. Whatever you want to call God, the universe, to Joshua, Allah, I mean, it's the same presence, the same essence, the same energy that's for us, a loving, kind presence that is here for us.
love
So
that.
thank you.
Thank
Bless
you.
you.
Love you. Thank you.